Lisa Grace almost dropped the plate she was washing. The water was warm, the porcelain smooth, but the words that cut through the quiet kitchen were sharp, calm, and utterly impossible. "I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend." She turned around slowly, her fingers still dripping. Across the kitchen, James Cole stood in his perfectly tailored suit, the morning sun creating a golden halo around him. "I'm sorry. What did you just say?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. His expression didn't soften. "1 month," he stated, his tone even and professional. "It's a business arrangement. You'll come to events with me. You'll smile. You'll make small talk." Lisa reached for a dish towel, needing something solid to hold onto. "Mr. Cole, I'm your housekeeper. I make your son's lunch. I fold your socks." His reply was immediate. "You're intelligent and you're discreet. You don't crave attention." He paused, his voice lowering just a fraction. "And I trust you with my son." Her heart clenched at the mention of Noah. Sweet, quiet Noah, with his shy smiles and his colorful drawings. The way he would lean against her when she read him stories before his nap. That trust meant more than he knew. "Why do you need a fake girlfriend?" she asked, genuinely curious. "There's a board event coming up," James explained, his jaw tight. "They don't trust a single man to run a brand that is built around family values." "But you're a widower," she reminded him. "They see that as instability." He let the silence hang for a moment before delivering the final blow. $50,000. Paid upfront. The number hung in the air, echoing in the sudden silence of her mind. $50,000. It was the exact amount she needed for her brother's heart surgery. It was enough to silence the relentless calls from the hospital. It was enough to give him a real chance at life. "I don't belong in your world," she whispered, the thought overwhelming. "That's precisely why they'll believe it," he said, the logic cold and undeniable. That night, Lisa sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the mountain of bills and her brother's heavy medical file. 1 month. No intimacy. Just pretending. It sounded simple, but her mind kept drifting to Noah's trusting eyes and James's voice so controlled and distant, yet with a hint of something human buried deep beneath the steel. By the time the sun began to rise, her decision was made. The next morning, she found him in his study. "I'll do it," she said, her voice firm. "But everything needs to be in writing. With clear boundaries, of course." He agreed without hesitation. "And one more thing," she added, lifting her chin. "I'm not changing who I am for this." For the very first time since she'd met him, James Cole almost smiled. The night of the gala arrived. Lisa stood beside James in an elegant ivory dress that felt like she was wearing someone else's skin. Heads turned as they walked in, and whispers followed them like a shadow. "Just be yourself," James murmured, his voice low and close to her ear. "That's the version of you they'll trust." And so she was. She was calm. She was honest. She was unapologetically herself. When a nosy board member asked about her background, she didn't flinch. "I wasn't born into this world," she said with a light, easy smile. "But I've found that knowing how to properly clean a kitchen comes in handy before you host a dinner party." A ripple of surprised laughter went through the group, followed by a new kind of respect. She felt James's eyes on her, and when she glanced at him, she saw something different in his gaze. Later that evening, she escaped to a quiet balcony for a breath of fresh air. A small hand slipped into hers. It was Noah. "Are you going to stay?" he asked, his little voice full of hope. Before she could figure out how to answer, James appeared behind them. For just a second, his carefully constructed mask cracked, revealing something raw and fragile underneath. In that moment, something shifted between the three of them. The pretending started to feel less like pretending. The lines blurred. James felt a sharp, unfamiliar sting of jealousy when he saw Lisa laughing with an old friend from her neighborhood who was catering the event. He felt it again when she gently touched another man's arm during a conversation. Later that night, the tension snapped. "This was supposed to be a performance," he said, his voice clipped. The hurt in her eyes was quiet, but it was there, and it lingered in the space between them for days. Then the storm hit. A flash flood warning had been issued, and the driver who was supposed to pick Noah up from his art class never arrived. Without a second thought, Lisa ran through the torrential rain and flooding streets to get to him. She carried him home, both of them soaked to the bone and shaking. When James saw them, the furious fear in his eyes was met with her own furious love for his son. He wrapped his expensive jacket around her shoulders, his hands lingering just a little too long. In the dim light of the hallway, they almost kissed. Almost. But then, the truth came crashing down. An old photograph revealed a secret Lisa had been keeping. She had known James's late wife, Julia. In fact, she had been there the night she died, a bystander in a tragic accident. James's grief, sharp and raw, twisted into cruelty. You stayed because of guilt, he accused her, his voice breaking with pain. No, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I stayed because this house finally started to feel like a home. She turned and walked out into the rain, leaving him alone with his ghosts. 3 days passed in agonizing silence. Rummaging through old boxes, James found a letter from Julia, one he'd never seen before. Her familiar handwriting filled the page. If your path ever crosses with a woman named Lisa Grace again, she had written, don't push her away. Let yourself love again, my dear James. You deserve it. The words shattered him. He finally understood. He drove through the night, the rain still falling. He knocked on her door, soaked and shaking, just as she had been. When she opened it, he didn't hesitate. I choose you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Not as a replacement, not as a mistake, just you. Without a word, she ran into his arms, and he held her like he would never let go. A moment later, Noah appeared in the doorway behind them, a wide, knowing smile on his face. This is home now, he declared. 6 months later, the quiet, sterile house was bursting with life. There were art classes in the sunroom, the smell of pancakes on Tuesday mornings, and children's laughter echoing in the halls. James would watch Lisa, her hands stained with paint, a smudge of flour on her cheek, and he'd feel a profound sense of gratitude. This was the life he had almost missed, the happiness he had almost pushed away. Some love stories don't start with a lightning bolt. They don't arrive with a loud, dramatic bang. Sometimes, love tiptoes in quietly. It shows up in a child's drawing stuck to the fridge, in the simple comfort of a shared breakfast, and in the quiet miracle of a second chance that finally turns a house into a home.